Hi, Will. How are you doing?
Great, Jim. Glad to be here.
So, this is a really crazy time in the networking business, in the world in general. Dealing with the pandemic comes first to mind. So, in your view, what has been your experience? What is the overarching big theme that keeps you guys going at AT&T Business these days?
Oh, it's definitely accelerated a lot of different aspects of our business. Like on our enterprise side, we've seen within our clients, just from a transformation perspective, it's accelerated a lot of our more digital aspects of our own product portfolio. How we're integrating a lot of those, in the past, we've been able to provide some of those from a single product perspective, but our clients are looking for more end-to-end integration across our portfolio too. So that's been a dynamic aspect to a lot of the change we're seeing. It was interesting, right out of the gate, it was all about damage control on how they're adapting to this new environment and having to scale, where maybe they had a population of 1,000 remote workers and now having to scale to 10,000. So the challenges were definitely different. I think they gravitated towards a lot of the same technologies they're already using and how do they scale those. But I think it did expose, some of the scale issues. So if it's equipment based, can they get enough equipment to support that? The head-end environment that they're coming into. I think the connectivity issue, as you go from enterprise to consumer, that blend and having the right quality of connectivity in that home environment to support now a full enterprise stack of applications. So we definitely saw a bleed of new broadband, wireless technologies infused in there, and a variety of equipment and software-based technologies to help kind of that scale that work from home user depending on their requirements.
Okay. So I'm especially interested in what you guys have been doing on SD-WAN, or maybe we should back up and say IPVPNs in general, and then maybe this transition to SD-WANs. How has that been playing out these last couple of months?
Yeah, I think, with the pandemic, I would say that really from a corporate perspective, like I said, I think their primary focus was employee productivity. So it was really shifting from in-house to work from home and keeping that productivity going. But as the dust settled, I think, the bigger initiatives around digital transformation, cloud, mobile first, and SD-WAN really picked up steam. So we've definitely seen an uptick in clients evaluating SD-WAN. We've seen elements of it start to be evaluated kind of in that work from home capacity. I think there's some work to do more from an evolution perspective of where that technology is at to make it kind of fit that environment better. But yeah, on the enterprise side, there's been a huge uptick in really helping enable their kind of cloud strategy and be more agile. In general, now I see it much more broadly adopted. I see across all enterprises, COVID has accelerated that. They're all evaluating it now. And beyond just the technology itself, I think where we're seeing it, obviously our core business is built on the underlay, the network capabilities of MPLS and internet and wireless and broadband. Really mixing and matching those underlay technologies with the overlay power of SD-WAN. That's truly, one of the value propositions of it is being able to provide more efficient use of that underlay technology because of its dynamic understanding of the application profile and how the underlay can route and support that application and doing that in real time. So clients are seeing, a big uptick in the value of their network capabilities because now they've got intelligent routing on top of that. So it's a really powerful combination when you look at the underlay overlay stack that clients are, using.
Yeah, so one thing, network administrators have always been really wary of is like, don't give me something that's non-standard, right? Give me something that is proven, that other people are using, that is scalable, all of those kind of attributes. Has there been that kind of concern about SD-WAN, or are companies kind of accepted it as, all right, this is an established technology now?
It's definitely gone, when you think about any new technology, it goes through a different cycle, right? The hype cycle through maturity. And SD-WAN is at that full maturity route, man, from an adoption perspective. So I still think, when you look at SD-WAN, early on it was plug and play, drastic cost savings on the network were a lot of the simple drivers. But like I said, I think clients are realizing there's broader value associated with it that are really, clients are driving to those business outcomes when they're looking at SD-WAN. But the overarching elements of, is it going to work? There is complexity there. And I don't think you can gloss over, MEF creating the first global standard around SD-WAN, us just recently certifying against that standard. It is really important because, you can't gloss over that this is newer software technology and there's new software releases all the time. And how is that going to interact with different underlay technologies or with different security technologies in the cloud? So, building, testing, certifying against these different combinations really gives our clients peace of mind knowing that it's going to function, it's going to perform to the expectations that they're purchasing it for.
Yeah, I'd like to dig down a little bit deeper into that certification. So it was the MEF 3.0 WAN certification that you guys recently did?
Exactly. Yep. We worked with Spirent from the certification partner perspective. We do a lot of different certifications with Spirent. And then from a technology perspective, we worked with VMware's SD-WAN technology. They're one of the first technologies we onboarded from our managed SD-WAN portfolio perspective. But they're the first one that we certified. We're going to look to do additional certifications with the others in our portfolio as well.
Okay, and so from your customer's perspective, when they see that, what does that really tell them? What does that mean to them?
It means that we're building to a standard out there. It means that when we deploy it, it's going to operate with different network technologies. So it's not just us doing our own testing saying it's going to work. It's really that interoperability. Like I said, when you're looking to mix it with different network services, mix it with different security services, all of that is really important. So it is giving the client peace of mind knowing that it's not just AT&T testing it. They're certified against a global standard.
Okay. All right. Great. So now that they know that it's certified, what are the key attributes or features? I mean, what is it that tells them okay, this is a value for my business?
Yeah, the value elements. Each client has different reasons for adopting for SD-WAN specifically. So from I can drive more value out of the underlay technology instead of having a single MPLS architecture. And now I'm in a hybrid. I've got different site types, so I'm driving better use of that underlay technology because the dynamic performance routing capabilities of SD-WAN. So there's that. It's got real-time failover. So if historically in traditional networking, if there's a hard down, it fails to a secondary circuit. With SD-WAN, it detects just minor performance issues. If I've got packet loss of 3% that would jeopardize this video call we're on right now, it could dynamically flip that to a secondary wireless connection that's performing better and not interrupt the actual flow of this session. So, reliability, application performance, when you move back to kind of that home user, we're on a broadband connection right now. There's issues with that broadband connection. Can it do dynamic remediation and provide performance enhancements? That's the beauty of this technology. And so I think there's a lot of different factors. I wouldn't say, every client has different drivers of what is most important to them, but there are commonalities. Like I said, the reliability, the application performance, the cost elements associated when you look at it holistically. Those are some of the typical ones.
Okay. And, I guess also that if those features and values are different among different companies, they probably have different starting points as well, right? I mean, it might be an enterprise that's on a old style IP VPN or somebody who's on a bulletproof MPLS network.
Right.
So I guess different migration strategies also are in play here.
There really are. Most of them are going to have some trigger event that gets them to look at the technology. Is it, end of life routers, right? Is it, their current WAN architecture, back to some of the bigger trends of, cloud adoption. My endpoints are no longer in my physical branch. They're all over the place. So how do I have a network that can be more agile and scale? So, you have to think about what is that trigger event that's going to get me to look at that technology, define those business outcomes. What's really important for me to adopt, and I'm going to measure success against those business outcomes. And then, the migration element in general, you can't gloss over the complexity associated with going from a current state to this future SD-WAN state. And, my advice in clients navigating that is spend some time really defining what my current requirements are and work with a partner, a managed partner like AT&T to really vet those against a variety of different SD-WAN technologies. Not all SD-WAN is created equal. They all have different, capabilities and functionality. So you mirror that once I understand my requirements, what's the best technology, and then have a partner, because these are fairly complex migrations. What are the pitfalls? Having a partner navigate that with them is really important in the sense where you've got expert around the technology from, validating that design to overseeing the test and turnups of that migration to that kind of life cycle day two support is also pivotal as well.
I keep hearing out here in Silicon Valley of different companies that say that they may not be going back into the office till September.
Yeah, when you look at the pandemic, like I said, I think a lot of businesses really kind of gravitated to, what's the technology that I have in place that I can quickly scale and do that damage control. But, as the dust has settled and they're thinking about this broader, 30% of my population is not going to come back into my office. They're going to continue to work from home for 5, maybe 10 years. What is that best architecture? And SD-WAN, was kind of built more for kind of the enterprise branch headquarter, different site types. But I think that's the opportunity for SD-WAN is really to scale more smaller form factor devices, lower cost points, to help with kind of those power users in that work from home, lower cost points, simpler functionality. That now you've got, whether I'm in my branch, whether I'm at, my home, I can still see that user. I can still manage policy, configuration, support across that end to end. And it doesn't always have to be equipped. I think there's going to be capabilities to do, zero trust network access, which is kind of the evolution of SASE integration with SD-WAN, which will give kind of different tiers of user populations that you're supporting, whether I'm at home, maybe that is equipment based, but as I travel, I'm using my mobile device, and how I connect into the network is the same whether I'm in the office, whether I'm at my home or elsewhere. So that security, that functionality from a performance perspective is across the single environment.
Yeah. So Will, you just raised like the last issue I wanted to talk to you about today, which is security, and where we go next with this. I heard you say also damage control, and for any network manager, those words are wow, you got to pay attention to that. So on the security front and on the SASE front in particular, how do you see this playing out in the next year or two?
I think there's a huge opportunity. Back to kind of where SD-WAN is on the maturity scale. It's in the maturity scale. It's at full adoption right now. The technology is there. There's a lot of capabilities. Enterprises are rolling this out in mass scale. SASE is fairly in the early developments from where the full potential where it's going to go. Right. So, but that is the perfect evolution. You think about how enterprises are solving this integration of SD-WAN and security right now. It's multi-vendor. I've got different, zero trust networking or remote access capabilities for my remote workers. I've got a different SD-WAN technology in my enterprises. I've got different cloud security technologies. I've got different CASB security elements. And the integration adds complexity. The operational, the visibility into and lifecycle support of these different technologies adds complexity. That's the world we're operating in now. That's what that environment looks like. But with SASE, the potential is that kind of single vendor technology stack end to end across that. And policy management, security, it takes a lot of risk out, simplifies that architecture, and allows them to really scale to new levels that they're not able to right now. So I think the potential is significant. You add in the elements of AI where, now it's not just a network administrator seeing trouble issues and having to diagnose and make configuration changes to remediate issues. You've got the intelligence, the analytics to say, hey, we're seeing these common errors. The AI can identify what that error is, alert the IT manager to maybe to make that remediation, or even make that remediation on the company's behalf. So the combination of AI, SASE, massive potential. It's very exciting that we're going to see a lot of enhancements over the next couple of years.
Okay. So just before I let you go, there was two, I guess, one forward-looking concept that I didn't hear you mention, so I wanted to bring that back into the conversation, and that's virtual edge. And, as this access question gets played out, there is this huge interest of what happens at that virtual edge. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the virtual edge is really powerful because, back to I've got appliances that are doing that functionality now versus it being a software virtual function that I'm provisioning, and being able to service chain multiple virtual functions. So that concept's been around for a while. And I think the orchestration is getting to a point where now I can, do that in more meaningful ways. I can provision, Azure compute down to my premise to process certain really latency sensitive applications with 5G, inside that building to provide autonomous guided vehicles or different IoT applications. And I can virtualize the different network functions, the security functions, the SD-WAN functions in that environment. Or I can virtualize SD-WAN into some of these cloud elements that I'm versus deploying physical appliances. So, the virtual edge concept has been around for a little while now, but the adoption, I think, still has a ways to go. And some of these use cases, I think, with the integration of 5G and what we're doing with edge compute now, there's a lot of additional great business use cases that we're going to see that kind of heat up with.
Awesome. Hey, well, this has been a great conversation. Well, I've really appreciated it. Thanks for sharing your thoughts today.
Thanks, Jim. Really enjoyed it. Appreciate it.